guys. You know I'm your host. My name is Suzio, and I am going to take this opportunity just to introduce Dr. Nosakhere Griffin-EL, and he's going to be speaking on dreaming for individual fulfillment and social consequence. I mean, you know, I think you can see a pattern here, guys. We went from one place to another, and we're finishing really, really strong. Dr. Nosakhere Griffin-EL, he is the founder and the president of the Dreamocracy Learning Lab and the creator of the Young Dreamers Book Club. As an educational leader, he believes in the power of dreams to transform the world. And throughout his professional career, he has designed innovative learning experiences, conducted research, and co-created programs to address pressing educational problems facing people of African descent in Africa and America. Now, Doctor is married to Dr. Eliada Griffin-EL, and they are proud parents of two beautiful, energetic children. One is called Nosakhere, who is 7, and the other is Onyemachi, who is 6. Doctor, thank you so much for being with us tonight. We are really, really excited to hear from you. Sir, you have 40 minutes to deliver for us because we also want to be able to glean and ask you as many questions as we possibly can. So over to you, and thank you so much for being with us.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. Of course, Unatina was, I guess we were at the GSB at the same time. I was a professor. And Unatina was an MBA student, but I felt like we were more friends than anything. I didn't have to give him any grades, so that was the big reason why we were kind of friends. Then, you know, for inviting me back to the place, essentially, that I was able to start to have the courage to actually articulate dreaming as a tool to change the world. I'm going to share my screen now, if I can do that. And thank you so much for that warm introduction. I deeply appreciate it. And of course, the pronunciation of all of my boys' names correctly is always something that warms my heart, you know? So I deeply appreciate it. Let me try to share the screen again. Okay, all right. I think I'm able to do it now. All right, boom. All right, we ready? All right. So real quick, let me see if I can. How do I do this? How do I move this out the way? Oh, let me just go up here. View. All right. There we go. All right. From the beginning. All right. So, as stated earlier, I'm the president of the Dreamocracy Learning Lab. And before we have this talk, I just want to call the inner child in you. I want that child that's in the back of your mind or the back of your heart. I want them to come forward. And I want the professional, the ambitious person, I just want them to sit down just for a second, because I want to talk to the inner child in you. Primarily because when we talk about dreaming, you have to be like a child. I wanted to start off by talking about one of my new favorite books. The name of the book is called Trying. Now, I do a lot of literacy work with young people. And one of the things that I've found in doing literacy work with young people, even reading books to my own children, is one simple thing, that as these books are teaching my child or my children lessons about character, lessons about how to change the world, they're also ministering to me too. So this book was especially important. There's an old man, and the old man is making a sculpture. And a young boy in amazement poses a question: how do I do that? And the sculptor says, you simply do it. Now, I don't even know, I don't know how many people need to hear that, but sometimes to pursue your dream, all you got to do is just do it. And the title of the book frames it even better. All you got to do is just try. The boy goes throughout the story attempting and failing, but the old man is there to encourage him. And eventually, the boy becomes successful at becoming a sculptor. Now, that's pretty powerful, in my opinion, because the boy had to just take a risk and do it. And he had a mentor there to guide him along the way. But at the core of this whole book is that the boy just simply tried. You know, there's a song, the brother's name is I'm forgetting the brother's name, but he says, try Jesus, don't try me, right? You know what I'm saying? And I remember when we first heard that song, we listened to it. It's only like 3 minutes long, so we listened to it about 30 times. And when I was reading this book, I said to myself, you know, we need to try our dreams, not try conventional ways of being. So this presentation is going to be a presentation when I'm essentially encourage you all to try your dreams. So before we get into dreaming, we need to define what dreaming is. Now, first, before we define dreaming, we have to understand one key thing, that there's a gap. Dreaming is left out of the public discourse. Ever since I was a kid, people would say, guess what? Hey, forget a dream, go get a job, right? Make some money, put some food on the table, buy a house, buy a nice car, you know, provide for your family. But I want to just let you all know that if you do that, you're not trying your dream. You're trying to be like everybody else. Dreaming is a term that people use to describe someone who is not grounded in reality. Oh, he's over there dreaming. But what I'm trying to tell you, that sometimes you literally got to be out of your mind or out of your conventional mind to pursue your dreams. Hence why I asked you to bring that boy or girl in the back of your mind and in your heart. I need that person sitting up front with their notebook out and a sharpened pencil, taking what one of my professors used to say, taking copious notes. I can't even spell all that, but I knew that meant take detailed notes. The dreamer is perceived as someone who's not serious in life, right? Oh, that dreamer, not serious. Oh, somebody's going to be taking care of him for the rest of his life or her life. But I argue that there's a gap. And I'm here to let you know the gap that we need to fill is this T word that I talked about in the beginning. We just need to try. Or as the old man said in the book, simply do it. Now, Oxford has a definition of dreaming, right? It's, you know, the conventional idea is something that happens when you're asleep, blah, 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 right? And then a cherished ambition or aspiration or ideal, right? That's what they say when they talk about dreaming. Look, Oxford is good for some things, but I was going to put Oxford on the shelf because that's the conventional notion of dreaming. I want to present to you a transformative, unconventional notion of dream. Or if you into the church, you know, you could just be outright and say this might be a spiritual, a God-centered approach to dreaming. But before I get there, let me just tell you one of my heroes, Bill Strickland, talked about dreaming in his book titled Make the Impossible Possible. Now I'm gonna let you all read that quote, but in his book he essentially says that if we are to make the world better, we got to do something that's spiritually fulfilling, and we got to do something that makes our planet better, make our world better. And I said, me and my wife, we read that book together. You know, I read it and I cried, and she read it and she cried, and then we talked about it and we cried together. But we came up with this concept of dreaming within the individual, dreaming as individual fulfillment and dreaming as a social consequence. Let me break that down real quick. This real quick, all right? Dreaming is a lifelong process where people pursue visions of individual fulfillment and social consequence. So individual fulfillment means you got to do something that makes you happy. You know, ain't no point in talking about saving the world. You know, like if someone said, Nosakhere, we need you to save the world through engineering. Yo, I just can't do it because that ain't who God made me to be. Now, somebody said, Nosakhere, make the world better through education. I'm like, oh, I love reading. I like talking about what I read. I like engaging in dialogue. I like building stuff. I could do that because that makes me happy. So many of us put the social consequence thing first, you know? You got to do this because, you know, we got to make the world better. No, if you're doing something that is not in alignment with what makes you happy, you're wasting your time. I used to use this metaphor, you know, I'm short, you know, I can't play goalie, you know, but I'm kind of fast. So I think the fast person might be with the striker, right? You know what I'm saying? So I can play striker, you know, but I can't kick the ball. So I might need to play forward or something like that. But that's neither here nor there. But you got to know your position, right? If you don't know your position, then you end up doing things that don't make you happy, or in a spiritual sense, they don't bring joy to your life. Eric Fromm talked about this concept of love in his book called The Art of Love, or Art of Loving. And in it, he says, you know, we talk about falling in love with somebody, right? So you fall in love with somebody, it's like, oh my God, I'm infatuated. They just swept me off my feet. That conversation I had with that beautiful young lady is, oh, she's my future wife, or he's my future husband. But what he says, you got to stand in love, because once those trials and tribulations come, are you still in love? That's what dreaming is all about. When you fall in love with your dream, you know, I fell in love with education when I graduated from college. I said, I'm going to go get my PhD in education and learn everything possible so I can work to make the world better for people of African descent, wherever they are. And I tell you, I went through a lot of trials and tribulations where I was like, maybe I just need to go get this job that's going to put some money in my pocket so I could go buy some stuff. But I'm telling you, if we fall in love with our dream, then we also must stand in love with our dream, meaning that we can't give up on it just because it's hard. Just like the boy did in the beginning in the story that I talked about. He wanted to give up. He said, nah, you know what? I can't do it. But the old man said, no, we're going to keep on trying. And because he kept on trying, at the end of the story, he becomes a sculptor who makes beautiful art. But beyond making beautiful art, there's a young lady who comes in and says, how do I do that? And that brother has to say, yo, let me put you on, as we say in Philly, or let me teach you. Try. Now, there's three contexts of dreaming that I want to talk about today. Personal, fatalism versus hope. Now, fatalism is a big word to say you believe that the world is predetermined, right? So I can't do this because I ain't got the degree. I can't do this because of my mama and daddy. They weren't wealthy. I can't do this for any reason in your head. Versus hope. Hope says, guess what? I'm unfinished. I don't care if you are 38 years old like myself. You are unfinished. I had a mentor in college. He said his grandfather was on his bed, 101 years old. And do you know what he said on his deathbed? I'm still learning. So we have the possibility to change ourselves. But before we change ourselves, we have to have hope. I also want to talk about dreaming within the educational context, right? You know, so many times, I mean, I done studied education throughout Africa, West Africa. I did a little study, studied education in East Africa, and of course in South Africa. And one of the things that constantly came up, and even in the United States, y'all, I'm gonna keep it 100. People are teaching children to learn to adapt to the world that is. They're not teaching them how to build the world that should be, at least in working class and rural schools. But you go to those elite schools, You know, I never forget what Max Price, the former vice chancellor of UCT, said. He said, we don't encourage our students to get jobs. We encourage our students to create the jobs. But in order to create the jobs, you have to have a mindset of learning for agency. How do I build? How do I see nothing and say, I can create something? I'll give you an example. I went to Egypt some years ago, and the tour guide said, do you see those mounds of dust? We said, yeah. He said, guess what? I said, what? He said, that was the inspiration for the Giza pyramids that you see over on the left-hand side. I said, wait. He said, yeah, they were inspired. They were inspired by their environment. They were inspired by their environment. Excuse me. I had to put that. That was my alarm clock so I wouldn't miss this. So they were inspired by their environment to make something beautiful that has stood the test of time. So what we need to do when we're talking about dreaming, even if you're in a space where people are saying you need to learn this for that, you need to say, how do I create something new out of what I'm learning right now? And then the last thing, we need to not just live in the world that is, we need to build the world that should be. Now, one of the things that we know with COVID-19 that shut the whole world off, right? Shut it down. You know, we were straight up in our house getting paid for the last, for a while, you know what I'm saying? But what COVID-19 has showed us that we can't go back to the world that was. We got to build the world that is. And in order to build the world that is, we got to do this DR thing. It's called dream. Now, I'm going to just break it down. I mean, I taught this a few times in South Africa, and I did a master class in about 16 African cities. And one of the things that I picked up when I engaged in dialogue, I mean, it's a whole list, but I just wanted to give y'all a few because I only got, 40, 45, 50 minutes. And I know y'all not going on, the black folk time, so I'm going to be good with my time today, all right? So I'm going to be honorable and respectful so I can get invited back again. So personal experiences that inspire dreams. Some people have a deep-seated spiritual commitment to their dream. They realize that God has called them to do X on this earth. Sometimes a personal crisis can inspire a dream, which some people might still connect to the first point, right? And then sometimes it's familial encouragement. I'll tell you one thing about my wife, Dr. Griffin-EL, you know what I'm saying? She has encouraged me so much during this time in building this social enterprise around literacy. I'll talk about that a little later on so I can get through the slides, all right? And then there's a social impact. People want to improve their community. They see a health concern and say, hey, how can I create a social enterprise around public health to solve problem X? And then sometimes people pursue dreams out of a social political consciousness. They know it's the right thing to do. Well, as we say in the States, folks is woke. You know what I'm saying? And in many cases, one of the things that I found was that people have a deep desire to help people from similar backgrounds. I remember when I was doing a research study in the townships, there was this young man who said he wanted to be a social worker. I said, why do you want to be a social worker? I was like, I ain't saying it's a bad career. I said, why do you want to be a social worker? He said, well, the social workers who serve my grandmother don't do a good job. And I have ideas on how I can improve this system. I said, what? That's what's up. So that's just one example. I'm going to get through these slides because I want to make sure that I hit everything. All right. So here goes some essential questions. All right. Y'all got your pen, paper, marker, I don't know what else, you can type it on your phone, whatever you got, pull that out right now. Because here goes some questions. Brother Unatina asked me for a questionnaire to give you all. You know what I'm saying? Now, with questionnaires, you also get a quiz at the end. So I'm going to check these. No, I'm joking. So here goes the first question. What's your dream? In many cases, people will articulate, a big dream. I want to be the CEO of a Fortune 500 company. I want to be the governor I want to be the premier of X Providence, right? I want to be the president. I want to be the big, lofty goals, right? And one of the things I used to always do, I'm like, man, that is what's up, man. Even with the kids that I deal with in the libraries in the city of Pittsburgh. I say, what's your dream? I remember this one girl said, I want to be a billionaire, trillionaire. I said, well, if you become a billionaire, trillionaire, I just need $1 million. That's it. That's all I want. This hook a brother up, right? But then you ask him a key question. And that question is, what are your superpowers? Yeah, I said it. The brother before me said talents, right? But I'm going to say superpowers because, if you just watch any superhero movie or picked up a comic, the superpower makes the superhero, right? Spider-Man, what? He shoot webs, right? Batman, I'm not sure what his superpower is other than him being rich. You know what I'm saying? Black Panther, he's intelligent. He's a warrior, right? What is your superpower? Yeah. What's your superpower? Because if your superpowers or your talents aren't connected to your dreams, then why are you dreaming them? Many people might say, hey, I got to get this. We say in Philly, I got to get this cake. So we ain't really figurative language. We ain't talking about cake, although if it's your birthday, you need to get that cake. But we talking about money. But when you pose a question, are you able to take that money with you when you die? Nah. I mean, I've been to pyramids and temples in Egypt where folks was like, no, I'm going to bury all this with me. And then other folks was like, yeah, we just going to come and look at this because you couldn't take it with you to the next life. What personal experiences has inspired this dream? Now, this is important, you all, because if you can't put your finger on 3, then why are you dreaming? Yeah, I'll go because I could go on and tell you a long story about, and I'm going to get to that at the end. What are your internal barriers that prevent you from pursuing your dream? When I was a second year student in college, man, I'm going to be honest with y'all, I couldn't write a lick, my professor gave me an F on midterm. And it's hard to bring up an F. The highest you can get is a C when you got an F. If you get A's throughout the rest of the semester, the only thing you get is a C. So I went to the professor's office. I said, look, man, I can't get a C. I just can't get a C in your class. I was like, what do I need to do? Hey, do you know what this professor told me? College isn't for everybody. You should think about going to a trade school. I said, time out. I didn't come here for a handout. I came here to see how I could improve on my grade. So he said, so what do you think you could do? I said, I can draft my papers. Can I do that? He said, yeah. I said, how many drafts can I give you? He said, as many as you want. Do you know I gave this dude 7 drafts of every single paper for the rest of the semester? And I didn't allow my inability at that moment, my inability to write, prevent me from pursuing my dream. I was like, no, I'm going to overcome that barrier. But sometimes your barriers aren't barriers, they're mountains. So sometimes you got to tell that inner kid, hey, yo, we going to have to hike on up to, what's that mountain, Lionhead, you know what I'm saying? We're going to have to hike because at the end of the day, your dream is worth it. Now that means hiking might take you longer than everybody else. But if you're pursuing your dream, it's all right. I had to give up Saturdays, Fridays, sometimes even Sundays to be a better writer, to be a better reader. And then the question is, how do you create pathways beyond, over, and through your barrier? In some cases, folks will try to tell you, just like my professor did, that you can't do it. But you have to have the mindset that, guess what? I'm going to create a pathway over and beyond this barrier. Or like I just said, I'm going to put on my hiking boots or sandals, because sometimes you ain't got boots, right? What's the value that your dream is going to create? Now, in many cases, people think about, well, I'm not going to say many cases, but sometimes people only want to dream dreams so that they can become the next billionaire. I don't know how many times people said, I'm going to create the new iPad, and that's beautiful, but what value is it going to create? If it doesn't create value in society, then why are you dreaming it? If you're only doing it just to get money, not to serve, not to be joyful inside, not to make the world better, then why are you dreaming it? Now, I believe that every dream should have a problem statement. Yeah, I said it, a problem statement. That's a lot right there, right? And each problem statement has the 4 W's and the 1 H, right? What is the problem your dream is going to solve, right? And I'm going to walk you through an example of how I came to answer these questions. Hope you're writing this down. Who does this problem impact? You need to know the people, because if you don't know who the people are, who your audience is, you might be solving a problem that no one needs solved. Only a few people need solved. Where does the problem occur? What's the place? And I'm going to answer this in my own experience. Why should the problem be solved? And more importantly, why should the problem be solved by you? How will you solve this problem? These are all important questions to ask, because the top 4 are like the kind of the theoretical, but the last one, that H, is like, this is how I'm going to solve. This is the meat and potatoes. This is the action I'm going to engage in the world. So the Democracy Learning Lab was born out of my personal experience. When we came back from South Africa, you know, my oldest son was diagnosed with a developmental delay, a speech delay, and it just totally knocked me off my socks. I said, how, you know, what can I do to solve this particular problem? And so I started to Google and I started to do my own research, and I found out, guess what? That in order to mitigate the speech delay, you have to read to your child, because that's how he'll hear the speech patterns, the grammatical patterns. And so that's what I started to do. So one summer I read my son like over 700 books, you know, all throughout that year we read and read and read. And at the end of the year, we probably read like 2,000 books to the boys. But in the midst of me working with my oldest son, I started to work with my youngest son too. My youngest son was 2.5 at the time. This boy was learning all of the different patterns of speech. We were doing phonetic, we were doing exercises around phonics, you know, decoding words. And do you know, at the end of the summer, this boy, 2-year-old, was reading. I said, wait a minute. You know, we were on the bus one time and he just starts reading stuff on the bus. I said, what? So I realized something that was so important, that in order to make the world better, we got to have people who can read. But beyond having people who can read, we have to essentially connect their reading to their dreams, connect books to their dreams. And so I started to do research. You see this number right here? That's a big number. 64% of Black kids in the city of Pittsburgh cannot read. 64%. And this is irregardless of your socioeconomic status. You could be working poor, working class, middle class. At the end of the day, Black children, 64% of Black children in the city of Pittsburgh cannot read on grade level. So I said, so what's the problem? Black children lack strong literacy skills needed for academic success. Lacking strong literacy skills impacts their ability to create and build their dreams. Again, there's a problem that my dream, that my social enterprise is solving. What's the problem? Black kids need strong literacy skills, because without them, they can't read a book about how to be an engineer, a scientist, or a politician, or an educator. Who does the problem impact? African-American children in low socioeconomic communities, and like I said before, irregardless of their socioeconomic status, but mainly impact the low socioeconomic communities. Why is it important that we solve this problem? solving this problem allows us to create an enabling environment that supports the next generation of engaged citizens, job creators, productive employees, and empathetic human beings. What's the solution? To inspire children to use reading as the foundation to create and build their dreams through innovative programming. So again, you have to have the four W's and the H, because without it, essentially, your dreams won't have the impact that you want it to have. And then here goes some of the objectives that I have for the organization. Before I move to the conclusion, I think it's extremely important that, you know, I say this, because I remember a question that Unatita sent me, which was, excuse me, why should people not pursue a check versus their dream? Let me tell you something. It's hard. It's hard. I became a stay-at-home dad once we realized, my son had a developmental delay, and I became his first teacher. But beyond that, after he was on track and doing extremely well, because this boy's a straight A student now, right? I said something. I said, look, all right, well, it's time for me to go get a job. I didn't apply. I got headhunted for a position. And I interviewed, did well, got the job offer. And when they offered me the job, guess what happened? They told me something. They told me that because I didn't have X experience, they wasn't going to give me X pay. And I was like, man, all right, man, it was kind of a gut punch. And I said, all right, we negotiated, went back and forth. And I said, you know what, I'll take it. And then the person pulled the offer. Broke my heart. Broke my heart. But in that heartbreak, there was a lesson that God was trying to teach me. God was saying, Nosakhere, I gave you a purpose. I gave you a plan. I gave you an idea. Boy, I gave you that dream. What you doing? Why are you trying to sell that off? Why are you trying to just get a good job? Am I not supplying your every need? I'm like, yeah, you are. But I'm saying, if I get this job, no. They say, no, Sakari, you need to focus. I got you. What do you need that I have not given to you? And I was just like, right. He said, when you left South Africa, when you decided to protest in the Fees Must Fall movement, lost your job, when you had to sell everything but the clothes and the books in your house, did I not provide for you? I was like, you did. So if that's the case, why are you pursuing a job? You need to pursue the purpose that I have placed upon your life. And you could call it a purpose. You could call it a dream. But what I'm going to tell you right now is that if we don't pursue our purpose in life, guess what? It's meaningless. It is meaningless. And I had to learn that the hard way. So instead of pursuing the job, I continued to build the social enterprise and got better and better and better. Today, 3 years later, this social enterprise, this literacy organization is positioned as the innovative literacy organization in all of Pittsburgh. I would have never have thought that. But when God gives you a mission, when God gives you that dream, you better pursue it, because you'll drop it and he'll pick it back up and say, hey, this is what I need you to do. So as a wrap up, I just want to say, and I echoed this sentiment earlier, COVID-19 has destroyed conventional ways of being. So we are called to be unconventional. That is the only thing we can be. And the way that we are unconventional is to pursue our dreams. So as that brother said in that song, he said, try Jesus, don't try me. I'm going to tell you again, try your dreams. Don't try convention, because convention will have you heartbroken. Heartbroken. Because you ain't do what God told you to do. Your mama ever tell you, don't hang out with such and such when you was a kid, and you hung out with such and such got in trouble, and you got in trouble, and your mama looking at you with all types of disappointment, and you just like, yeah, and you heartbroken. You're like, my mama had told me. Well, that's what I'm telling y'all right now, that y'all dreams is important. You need to try those dreams. Just like that little boy, he had a dream of being a sculptor, but because it was a little hard, he said, you know what? I'm good. And the old man said, no, keep on trying. Just keep on doing it. And that boy grew up to be a man who mentored the next generation of artists. Let me root this in the personal experience, because many times we talk about books, we talk about our experience, and it becomes very theoretical. But let me tell you my father's last words. My grandfather, who I'll send him this tape and he'll start laughing because he said, "You mocking my voice again? Don't be telling people I talk like that, boy." So my grandfather called me up one day, said, grandson, you need to come down here and see your father. And I was like, yeah, I'm coming down in about a week or 2 weeks or a month. He's like, no, you need to come see him now. He's on his last legs. He ain't got too much longer. Now he has stage 4 lung cancer. So I went to my grandfather's house. He picked me up from the bus station and he took me to his house so I could drop off my luggage, and we went to my father's home. And as soon as I walked through the door, my father said something. He looked at me, started crying. And he said, I wish I had more time. He uttered those simple words, had to be like 10, 15 times within the hour, crying. I wish I had more time. He worked over 40 years as an educator in the public school system. But he had bigger ambitions. I mean, I got this closet behind me has boxes of his mathematical ideas that I myself don't know what he's talking about because I ain't a math person. But he had ideas, he had dreams, he had visions that was given to him, but he didn't pursue them. What I'm trying to tell you today is try your dreams. Don't try convention. Don't be conventional. Be you. Be who God put you on this earth to be. And I'm going to end because I want to engage in dialogue, as we used to say in grad school. Paulo Freire is one of my heroes. In fact, his book, Pedagogy of the Oppressed, during the apartheid regime was banned because that book was inspiring folks to say, education is a tool to make myself better and to change the world, but beyond changing the world, to confront oppression. In one of his other books, he says this, and this is the most powerful quote that captures what I'm trying to tell y'all today. He said, dreams are visions for which one fights. I don't know about y'all, but I know what fighting me. I mean, I grew up in the hood in Philadelphia. Fighting me like, yo, I got to win. And he said, their realizations cannot take place easily. So it ain't gonna be easy. You can't just say, when I was having conversations saying I want to build a school. That was when things would happen, things wouldn't work. And I'm like, oh man. Then I said, let me start small. Let me build this literacy organization. And guess what? That still was hard. It wasn't easy. Your dreams ain't gonna come. He says, their realizations cannot take place easily without obstacles. There's something that's going to happen. You know, spiritual folk, which he is one, would say, you ain't going to get no testimony unless you get that test. And then that moan is how you get testimony. I don't even know if that's the etymology of testimony, but it kind of sound right. So you ain't going to get your dream without fighting for it, without having to climb mountains or jump over barriers. He said, it implies, on the contrary, advances. So you're going to make progress. When I got my PhD, I thought the world was mine. And then there were reversals. I had to stop. I worked in South Africa, lost my job, working with my sons, build the organization. No money in the organization, still pushing forward, going back. And he says, at times, they are lengthy marches. You got to march, man. You know, I remember when I went to Robben Island, and that last, when they have you get out that bus, and they say, this is the walk that Mandela and all the other political freedom fighters walked before they got out. I said, what? That was long. I said, man, I should have got some water at that stop that we made. But the point I'm making is that you have to realize that it's going to be a lengthy march, and you might not accomplish it. It's like David when he was trying to build that temple for God, and God said, it is good that you tried, but you have a warrior spirit. You ain't the person to build this. Your son Solomon, he's going to build it. So at the end of the day, when we pursue our dreams, it's the thing that God has put in us ever since we was a kid. That's why I asked you to tell that kid in the back of your mind and in the back of your heart to come forward. Pull out a pencil. Get a notepad out. Take copious notes. Pull out your phone. Take some notes. Because that's the person I'm talking to. And if you don't believe me, let me just end it with David's story. David was brave, right? David was a boy. And do you remember when he was about to fight Goliath? Everybody told David, his brothers was like, you can't talk to Goliath like that. You can't trash talk no giant. And folks was like, guess what? You know, in order for you to defeat him, I think it was Saul. Saul said, in order for you to defeat him, you got to put this armory on. You got to put this breastplate on. You got to put all this use all these conventional tools of war to defeat Goliath. But what did David use? 5 smooth stones and that slingshot that he defeated the bear, the lion, and anything else that he encountered when he was out there defending the sheep. What am I trying to tell you? That little boy, that little girl that was in the back of your mind that came up and took copious notes, that person is the person who can help you live your dreams. Now, we all need to be a community. That's the concept of democracy. You need to have a group of dreamers who work together to build a better world. That's what democracy means. But I tell you, you also got to have that little girl, little boy inside of you that says, guess what? I can do it. Because when Dave picked up that slingshot and one of those smooth stones and used that tool of his childhood, he hit Goliath in the head. Defeated the giant. Defeated a giant. And I'm going to tell you that you're going to face some giants in your life. But you got to pull out that smooth stone. You got to get that slingshot. You got to crack somebody in the head. Not crack somebody in the head. I'm talking about that thing that's stopping you. Because, you know, I'm all for, you know, nonviolence. You know what I'm saying? But that's what you got to do. You got to get that little boy, little girl to give them that courage, to encourage them like that man in the story did, so that they could just try. That's all I'm asking you to do right now. Just try, because trust me, for the last 3 years, I've been trying. But then when I got my slingshot and my smooth stone, I started to knock down giants. And sometimes, here goes the key thing before I leave, sometimes those giants are ourselves. Sometimes we're telling ourselves that we can't do it. But I'm going to tell you right now that if I could do it, I graduated high school when I was 19. I was left down twice. I could barely read when I got to college. And now I'm teaching kids how to read. Anything is possible because we serve an impossible God. And because we serve an impossible God, God always lets us know that he has already given us what we need to win. That's what my mother-in-law just told me last night. So as I ended, try your dreams. Don't try to be anybody else. Try your dreams. Knowing that you're going to be broke for a little while. Knowing that it ain't going to be perfect. But it's all about the pursuit. Because if you died today, or you were on your deathbed like my father was, would you say, I wish I had more time? Or would you say, I used the time that God gave me the best way I could? I'll end it here.
Wow, 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 wow. Talk about letting us go with a bang. Here in South Africa, it's evening time, and I don't know everybody else is in the world, but I know for the rest of us who are going to sleep just now, we're going to be dreaming because we've been seriously challenged. Oh my goodness. Guys, if you have any questions, I really want to open up the floor right now and just, encourage you to drop in any of the questions in the comment section. I see Zikisa just shared with everybody on the group here and said that he's actually left his job. He says, I took a decision on Monday to forego my job, and today was my last day. I'm in pursuit of my love for learning and development. Thank you for the reminder. That has got me. Talk about landing right on time. My goodness. Zikisa, we are sending you all the positive energy and prayer. I can tell you that. So guys, while I wait for you guys, you can unmute yourself if you have any questions. Gugu, I see you've unmuted yourself, ma'am. Are you wanting to ask something?
And just as a quick thing, I just put all of my contact information, Facebook groups, Facebook pages. I put everything. I might even put my national number up in there. Passport number, my kids. No, I ain't do all that. No, I can't do that. But yeah, all my information is there. So just let me know. Just contact me, reach out.
Thank you so much. Gugu, did you want to ask something, ma'am?
No, sorry. I just unmuted myself by mistake, but rather take the opportunity to say thank you so much. For the short period that I've been in the session, just got home from work. I really feel like I missed a lot, so definitely would catch up. But I really appreciate this, Senator. Thank you so much for this session. So I really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you, Gugu, for passing in and jumping in. We really appreciate you too. Brightness says, is it possible to have more than one purpose?
Of course, as you see in the background, I like to do art a little bit, and so yes, there is more than one purpose. I think that they all can fit under a nice umbrella, right? So like when you talk about when I talk about literacy work, it's about reading, it's about writing, right? So I love to write, I love to read, but also literacy is about, literally and sometimes figuratively painting pictures. So I consider myself somewhat of an artist, I consider myself a motivator, yeah, you can of course you can have more than one purpose. But I think the one thing is like, what's the umbrella, right? What's the umbrella purpose or the dream that fits all of those purposes in, right? It's like somebody becomes an NBA basketball player and people just want to talk to them about basketball. Like, hey, Shaquille O'Neal or, LeBron James, how do you do this on the basketball court? And LeBron James is a businessman, Or there's a famous artist by the name of Jacob Lawrence. He's an artist, but he's a philosopher too, So you don't only have to have one purpose. And sometimes God calls you to do something new. I would have never thought that I wouldn't be in a university. That time has passed. I have a new one. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a journalist. Wrote for my high school newspaper. All of those things build up and it gets you to the ultimate purpose or dream.
Thank you so much. I mean, you've spoken about a lot of highs and lows. You've spoken about being broke. There's been a lot of challenges, I'm sure, for you in the last 3 years. Doctor, what's kept you grounded, in this process? Because when we're listening to it, it sounds cute, it sounds nice, it's all come together, but surely at some point your mind must have just been like, what has kept you super grounded and on the course?
To be honest with you, my best friend, I'm forgetting her name. I'm joking. My wife, on one hand, we have long conversations at night sometimes, many times. But two, it's the prayer, right? Uh, Man, she prays a lot for me. We talk a lot. The other things that have kept me is, I tell you, there was times when I was about to fail graduate classes, and I'm like, how am I going to get out of this one? And I closed my eyes, and I wound up with an A in the class. I feel overwhelmed, and I think it's constantly tapping back into your source. My wife, she's my helpmate, she's my mind mate, she's my soulmate. But my source is God. Our source is God. And when I detach from my source, that's when I struggle, because that's when people be like, hey, we got this job, we can pay you $80,000. Like, 80, what? Hey, I'm gonna be right back with y'all. And I get conventional. And then I gotta tell myself, boy, that ain't no. I used to tell people, if I wanted to be conventional for real, I should have got a PhD in math and science and all that other stuff. You know what I'm saying? Because I would have people would be like, I know you making 200,000, but we want to give you 300 because you got a PhD in math. But that ain't that's not my gift. So it's constantly being connected to the source, and then believing in it. It's like, straight, I gotta believe this. I went through this. I had this big meeting where we discussed the different literacy organizations in Pittsburgh. And after the meeting, I told my wife, I said, babe, I did not believe that the work I was doing was substantial. Your ego be like, yeah, of course it's substantial. I know I'm making moves. But it was when, after this meeting, I was like, no, this is real. The 3 years the years that I was putting in with my sons, and I was on the bus stop pulling out books like, hey, boy, we're going to read this book. They're like, Daddy, no. I'm like, no, we're going to read this book. Or when I created a reading tour and went throughout the city of Pittsburgh and read to kids, it was like, it was all worth it. It all made sense. Now, but I had to tap into my source, God, so I could get that interpretation. Because if I don't have that interpretation, everybody going to sell me the ticket like, oh, somebody else is doing what you're doing. But God is like, no, I got you. You're doing something special. A quick story, and if anybody, quick story. I was working with this young lady, gave her a book about her dream. See the young lady months later in a store. Someone says Dr. Griffin-EL. Now, I haven't been in academia for a while. Someone says Dr. Griffin-EL. I'm standing with my wife, and I'm thinking they're talking to her. My back turned, and I turned around, and I was like, oh! I said, I forgot your name, but I remember your dream. She said, what's my dream? I said, you wanted to be a material engineer. I still can't spell that. And she said, Mommy, that's the man I was telling you about, Dr. G, who gave me that book about my dream. So many times, kids, adults don't get that. That's how I know what I'm doing is special. When someone remembers you, and yeah, I could go on and on. I got a little Baptist preacher in me, so I can say, I'm gonna wrap up, and then 30 minutes later, I'm still talking about that one incident. So I'm gonna stop right there. Okay.
You should have gone with it, doctor, because I was pulling and I was saying, we want to hear the story. We want to know, we want to know this, because one of my other questions was going to be, how do you know this is worth it? And you've just answered that. You should have gone with the rest of the story, doctor.
Right. So the story is, the young lady was like, she had a speech delay, just like my son. And she was like, you know, she's like, I'm not that, when I was working with her, she was like, I'm not that smart. I said, you're not that smart. I said, we sitting here reading this book. Ain't you reading the book? She said, yeah, I'm reading it. I said, look, my son got a speech delay. If he is like you when he's in 7th grade, yo, I would have made, I would be proud of myself. And more importantly, I would be proud of my son. And so she never forgot me. It was another young lady in another library, worked with her. I swear, I thought that I had, you know, poisoned her from her dream. She's like, you know what? I don't want to be an archaeologist anymore. I was like, no. I got on the bus and I said, what can I do to reach this child? The next time I met with her, we had a little reading session. I'm like, this is what you do, 1, 2, and 3. And she got it. You know, I never forget, there was this little boy. Yeah, I'm getting so you told me to go on. So yeah. There was this little boy, and he was sitting in the library by himself. And I walked up to him, I said, hey, little man. He said, how you doing? And he, you know, he reminded me of my son. You know, I couldn't understand everything. I would have him repeat what he was saying. And I said, what do you want to be when you grow up? He said, I want to be an artist. I said, oh, artist? He said, yeah. I said, let me show you something. Let me show you some of my skills. I started drawing with him. So then he draws something. So I said, how about we make a face together? He said, how we do that? I said, I'm going to draw the head. Boom. He draws the eyes. I said, can I draw the lips? He's like, yeah, boom, boom, boom. So his mom walks up, and his mom was like, I was like, how you doing? You know, because automatically here goes this dude, you know he worked, you know he volunteering at the library, but you don't know him. So I said, here goes my card, you know, 1, 2, and 3. And she said, I watched you with my son. I ain't never seen him work with nobody like he's working with you right now. And I was like, I just spoke directly to that boy's dream. Again, you got to remember that little boy in you, because he sat in the library by himself. I said, look, if that was my son in the library, I would want somebody to engage him to make sure that he all right, you know. But beyond that, I would want them to, you know, inspire my son. And so this little boy, every time I see you, like, hey man, look what I drew like the other day. I said, look what I said, say that again. Look what you drew. He said, look what I drew. I said, let me see that. I said, can I have this? He's like, no, you can't have it. I was like, I'm gonna put it up here on the library, right here. I'm gonna put it up on this library, this bulletin board. Back here. All right, we can do that. I was like, we're gonna do that now. We ask questions later. You know what I'm saying? But the thing is that we constantly gotta, in lack of better words, we constantly gotta connect with our audience, because that's when it's worth it. When I'm sitting in meetings, you know, or yeah, when I'm sitting in meetings and I'm hearing people just talk about the business of education, I'm like, yo, this is not where I'm at. You know what I'm saying? I want to be there with the people. The people energize me, you know? I hope that answers your question. So being around the people, that's what makes it worth it. When you see those cracks. Here goes another story, and I can share this article. There was a young boy, I named him Malcolm. I wrote an article about him. I named him Malcolm. This little boy was left down twice, just like I was, you know? But when I first walked into the library, in the United States, they have libraries and they have computers, and the kids play computer games all day, or video games. So I walked in the library, anybody want to read? Of course, nobody wants to read. I said, yo, I was like, what's y'all dreams? And this little kid just peeks his head out. No, I said, who wants to build with me? Little kid peeks his head out from the computer. I said, ha, gotcha. I said, come on, just come over here. I get Legos, so we pull out the Legos and start building. I said, what you want to be when you grow up? He said, an architect. I said, an architect? I said, all right, boom, boom, boom. 15 minutes go by, we build something. I said, look, let me tell you about this dude named Frank Lloyd Wright. This brother, this bad dude, he said, bad? I said, no, he bad. But I'm saying, like, he like bad, like he do good things bad, but he's a great architect. I should use that word. He said, a great architect? I said, right. I said, look, this brother built a house on a waterfall. He said, really? I said, yeah, we just got to go to the biography section. Let me get the book for you. He sat there and read this book every single time. Now, he struggled, and I was able to help the boy, but going back to it, I was able to help the boy with the same tools that I helped my sons with. It was work. I was sitting up there working with my sons a year, 2 years before. I'm like, babe, I'm just saying, like, I'm happy if my sons can read. I need to get paid. I didn't see it at the moment. That God was preparing me. Before that, I was in Tanzania learning Swahili couldn't speak a lick of Swahili the first 2 weeks, first 3 weeks. I was sitting there in marketplaces, talking to people, can't talk, people laughing. I was like, oh my God, it was like a traumatic experience, you know? And I said to myself, wait a minute. I said, why is God putting me through this? Years later, my son would have this developmental delay where he wouldn't be able to communicate what was going on in his brain. And I went back to Tanzania to when I was sitting talking to folks. And I remember at the end, when I went to Kenya at the end of the summer, because I was in 3 months in East Africa, I got it. I was able to start to speak and people understood me. And I was like, woo, I'm done. You know what I'm saying? So the point I'm making to you, you go through these different things and don't know why you are going through them, only to realize later, this is why. And again, if you ain't tapped into your source, you can't do it. The other day I was telling my son, and I'm gonna stop because I want to get some questions. The other day I was telling my son about reading. He's like, I don't want to read. I said, look, boy, you being able to read, because it was, you know, we was going over with homework. So that's another story in and of itself. I said, boy, you see this phone right here? I said, if I don't plug this phone in, it will never work. It won't have no what? He said, power. I said, my man. I said, you know what your power is? If you was this cell phone, if the cell phone was Nosakhere Griffin-EL Jr., you know what this cell phone would be? I said, you know what the source, the power that would give you the ability to do whatever you want to do in school, to be the engineer that you want to be? He said, what, Dad? I said, let me show you something, son. This right here, bang. If your power is reading and it's in the phone, you could pick this up and breeze through it. You could do anything. He said, okay, Dad. But I still don't want to do my homework. But I said, boy, we're going to get you in this source. We're going to plug you up. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Doctor, for being with us. I mean, you've really stretched our minds. And I think definitely you've spoken to our inner child, because I think everybody has a dream. And sometimes you need to be able to see somebody else. And it almost gives you permission to dream and step out. And just thank you for the practical tools that you have given us. And for everybody, I hope you've just taken in those social media links that the doctors put down there for us so that you can also connect. I know I've just done it myself. And we want to stick to time, but in just 2 minutes, Tuso has a question and he says, how do you turn your pain or somewhat setback into triumph? If you could just 2 minutes, give us your answer on that.
I think the first thing is to really seriously reflect on the pain, right? And to get the lesson from the pain. Sometimes people disappoint us. Like when I didn't get that job that was paying a lot of money, if I would have thought it was a personality thing, if I focused on that, I would have missed the lesson. The lesson was, look, you were not going to be able to maximize your God-given potential in this position. So it wasn't for you. If I thought, hey, if I kind of kept on going into my head or, bring all these other things in, it becomes a distraction. So you need to reflect on it. Really tease out what happened. Sometimes you're not even going to be able to make meaning out of it. Sometimes you just need to get in that, you just need to pray and just ask for God to reveal what is next. And when God reveals it, be willing to do it. I thought God was calling me to be a teacher about 1.5 years ago. And I went through a teacher training program. I was like, this ain't it. I'm done. Folks was like, you really? I was like, nope, because I need to operate in a different way. So you got to reflect, understand the lesson. And if it's not clear, go to God and ask for that clarity.
Thank you so much for that. And we appreciate your time. We have enjoyed our time with you. To everybody else, thank you so much for being with us in this entire session. You guys are the real deal, man. Like, you are here to the end. You are here to be in. I'm going to give it over to Uno to just wrap it up in 2 minutes. Sir, thank you so much for the time. We really appreciate you, and we will definitely stalk you on all social networks.
Please do. Please invite your friends too. You know what I'm saying?
Dr. Griffin-EL, thank you so much for coming through again and helping us out. And you've gotten even better. You've dug into your dream, and I feel like I've met the person I met in 2013 is like times 10 now. You've like and you haven't changed a bit when it comes to saying what's your dream. And I remember you asking me that question when I was trying to figure out what next thing to study out, and that question really changed my mind. And I think that part of what we are doing now is attributed to you and your wife asking those questions and nudging and making sure that this thing happens. So I thank you very much for accepting to come through and talk to us. Hopefully, in fact, I know this will not be the only engagement. Now that you've given your contact details, I'm sure many people are going to be calling on you. If you are friends with Nose, as they used to call him, did I still call you Nose? If you're friends with Nose on Facebook and you get into his group, there is a group on Facebook called, what is it called? The Young Readers Club, is it?
The Young Dreamers Book Club.
The Young Dreamers Book Club. This man is mad about books. Every single day, he's got like 3 or 4 books that he talks about. Black young boys got to read this one. This one is for the girls. This one will teach them to have confidence. This one will, and when he says he read 2,000 books in a year to his kid, I believe him, because the way he shared, I can't keep up with him. So it's so great to be your friend. It's so great to have you in our network. And thank you so much for everything that you've shared tonight. Please continue to follow your dream, because certainly our dreams too get their next chance as you continue to expand yours. Thank you very much.